We are back as promised with the gameplay video. If you're ready to start jumping in the air and coming down with some hammers, then let's get to it. As I said, this isn't quite a greater 50 plus guide since I don't have the appropriate weapon, but we'll show you that you can at least get pretty close, even without having the weapon that really makes the build take off. So, let's go ahead and do it. We're going to do Greater Rift 48. Just give you an idea of how you want to play it. I've tried a few different ways. I've come up with, I am just going to spam Akarat's Champion every time it is, in fact, off cooldown. Going to go ahead and just jump in with Falling Sword whenever I have it up, and just start hitting things with hammers. Really, you're going to use things kind of as they're off cooldown. That's going to be particularly your Iron Skin when you're jumping into elites. You can see that quickly you do take a lot of damage. You're going to provoke every time you have at least a couple of enemies around you to get your Wrath back, because that is going to be extremely important. You can't hammer if you don't have Wrath, but you see how quickly it comes off of cooldown because of the set bonus. What you don't want to be doing is trying to just fight one or two small enemies at a time pretty much ever. Some builds can get away with that. This one really doesn't. Your damage comes from being in the middle of a large group, partially because of the limitless rune on your hammers so that they're able to split effectively. If you're just fighting one, you're really not accomplishing much. You're just going to take, honestly, longer to kill it than some other builds would. And then you're just going to be sitting there forever, honestly accomplishing not a whole heck of a lot. So if it's a big enemy like this, you know is going to give you a lot of progress on the Rift, go ahead and do it. But for the most part, you really want to be looking for larger packs. Something like this, I'll just let them trail me a bit. And then I'm just going to come in here and start hammering away again. Again, I am going to be using Akarat's Champion pretty much off cooldown. If I ever notice myself starting to take a lot of damage, I'll just hit my Iron Skin, Falling Sword. And you see, like, when you're in the middle of a pack, Provoke can get you from almost no Wrath to pretty much full Wrath. And look how quickly it comes back off cooldown, because you're hitting a bunch of enemies with your hammers. So again, just remember to pretty much spam everything. Your individual damage numbers are decent, particularly when Akarat's Champion is active. They're not as amazing as you might see with some other builds or some other classes. So just keep that in mind, that that's why you really don't want to be just hitting one random enemy, because your individual hammers are not that impressive. Where your damage is coming from is the fact that you're able to get out a whole bunch of them. So you see, like, when I don't have Akarat's Champion, things aren't up, yeah, I can die pretty quick. But I'm not scared. I'm going to jump right back in. I do have Akarat's Champion now. Back up, which is great, because if I were to die, I would immediately be revived back with full health. We can proc the Iron Skin again, or activate it rather, it's not really a proc. Get that going. And yeah, you see the difference in damage output with Akarat's Champion active is actually massive. Which is why I played around a little bit with just a random ancient one-handed weapon that I have. Skills come off of cooldown a lot more quickly with it. So I actually kind of prefer that playstyle, but the damage, because it wasn't the Johanna's argument, so I wasn't getting the increase in attack speed, the damage just wasn't really there for me. So that's why for right now, until I do get Johanna's argument, I'm just going, you know, to this random ancient two-handed weapon just for the damage boost. But yeah, again, I do have Akarat's Champion up. Just going to go ahead and activate that. I will try to, you know, find what part of the mob, you know, seems most threatening, and just go ahead and jump on them, and then, you know, let the rest kind of sort itself out. But you see the hammers that are flying around. Like Ia said, each one does not do massive amounts of damage, but you get so many that that the actual DPS is pretty good. So we have this channeling pylon, gonna go ahead and try to make the most of it. Again, just kind of spam everything. The channeling pylon obviously helps, but also the Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac is big. Alright, I was able to get one more Acrash champion off before the channeling ran off, so that was cool. But you see when I'm just at one enemy, like, it's not as impressive. We'll go ahead and instead just activate everything. We do have 2 packs here, which is going to make things interesting for me. My Acrash champion is back up, fortunately. So I'll just go ahead and use that. This build is actually interesting because a lot of the times I feel like I'm about to die and then I don't. Which is cool because it means I can survive more than I think I can, and it's bad because sometimes I think I'm going to live and then, you know, I just kind of stand there and watch my health bar drop as you saw earlier. So, yeah. The one thing I did not mention in the actual build guide, I just probably figured it was implied, is that your follower will be wearing a Unity. You will be getting the double Unity bonus. Acrash champion is almost up, which is actually very important because that gives us a second revive passive and also greatly increases our damage output, so it makes me much more willing to just jump back in here. So yeah, without Johanna's argument, I have found the damage of this build to not be quite on par with some of the other stuff I've done, like some of the barb stuff, but with it, you absolutely can put out quite a bit of damage. And you say that even though I died once, and it feels like I'm kind of taking a while to take down these packs. A, keep in mind that there were 2 packs here, not 1. But B, like, I am still ahead of the timer. It's not as much as I'd like it to be, admittedly, but we can get there. Absolutely we can. So yeah, that's, as I said, you watch the Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac thing, like, look, our Acrash champion is actually almost 30 back. And that's kind of the benefit of the one-hander, is that you're going to be hitting a lot more often, which means you're getting your cooldowns back much quicker because of the Obsidian Ring. So, as I said, I don't really want to just stand there hitting one guy. I wanted to try to take advantage of my Acrash champion a little bit, but it ran out kind of right as I jumped in this pack, so we'll see. Again, you do want a Falling Sword as much as you can. Keep in mind, you are getting a 50% damage reduction for 8 seconds every time you use Falling Sword. So the more often you can do that, the safer you're going to be. And it does provide a decent amount of damage as well. And look, Acrash champion's back already. We'll just provoke, get our Wrath back. And yeah, I'm going to move on. As I said, even if I leave, you know, 1 enemy, whatever, it's really not a big deal. I'm still kind of trying to figure out exactly when it makes sense. It probably depends on what the enemy actually is, on whether or not you want to leave it there. But yeah, the combination of the damage reduction from Falling Sword, the damage reduction from Unity, damage reduction from Iron Skin, means you actually have a lot more survivability than you'd think. I actually don't have a ton of toughness. Not 0, but not a ton. But because of all the different ways in which I'm able to mitigate damage, I actually can stay alive for a lot longer than it might originally appear. Again, that's both a blessing and a curse, because sometimes I get a little cocky, I guess, in how long I'm actually able to live for, But yeah, just said pretty much spam everything you have off cooldown. And yeah, like, you say how many times it looked like I was close to death, but it was actually fine. Is this conduit? Yeah, I'll take a conduit, assuming I can get to it. Activate Iron Skin, allow me to run through them. Alright, there we go. So let's keep in mind, we didn't, except for that one channeling, we really didn't hit any pylons yet in this rift either. And we were still, like, doing okay as far as time goes. The one thing I have noticed, speaking of time, is your success is actually pretty dependent. If it's close, on your time and you feel like you should be okay. Your success is actually largely dependent on what Rift Guardian you get. For example, Ember, I have found very easy on other classes, and on this one it's just absolutely the worst because he's just constantly running away from you, which makes it very difficult to hit with your hammers. Because like D2, the easiest way to hit with your hammers is to be very, very close to the enemies. Again, see here, like each individual hammer, not hitting for that much. So I'm just going to say, you know what, I'm done with you. And move on to an actual pack. Individual damage not amazing, which you'd say, well, doesn't that suck for the Rift Guardian? Yes and no. Again, it really depends on the Rift Guardian. Some Rift Guardians will, you know, spawn little dudes, and that's awesome for you. It actually greatly increases your damage output when they do that. So, like I said, it's just very, very dependent on Rift Guardian. But you see, like, our timer is actually pretty decent. You know, it's not like we're, you know, just a little bit ahead. Like, we're in pretty good shape here. So yeah, it's pretty much, as I said, you jump in with Falling Sword, you spam a bunch of hammers, you Akarat's Champion when it's off cooldown. Whenever you're starting to run out of Wrath, you just try to get, you know, next to a couple enemies and use your Provoke. And that's pretty much all there is to it. It's a pretty fun playstyle. Like, I feel like it might be a little bit more fun if I weren't always so close to the edge of death. You saw I pop my revive passive there. I'm looking to look for Akarat's Champion. There we go. So it might be a little more fun if, you know, you weren't feeling like you were, you know, always towing the line between life and death. But that's why we have, you know, double revive passive. So here we go. All right, not Ember, which is awesome. So Orlash. See what he's got. Again, you're still... Rift Guardians tend to move around a little bit more than some other enemies. Orlash is still kind of annoying because I'm going to constantly have to reposition because that stuff hurts. We'll say that right now. That stuff hurts. With that said, there are multiples of them, which allows us to get more Wrath off of Provoke, which is cool. But yeah, this is not necessarily going to be the easiest thing I've ever done. You see his health, we're not exactly bursting him down. It is very much, you know, a sustained damage battle, battle of attrition. But we'll go ahead and activate our Akarat's Champion, get some more damage in the mix here. Just jump behind him as he's trying to use his Diablo Fire Breath. With Akarat's Champion here, plus the fact that our hammers are refunding 100% of their Wrath cost whenever they're hitting, since it's for 3 enemies or less. You see, I don't really have Wrath problems there. Yeah, this guy, he's time-consuming is what he is. He's not overly difficult if you play it correctly, which I didn't right there. Not overly difficult if played correctly, but definitely time-consuming, so you just have to spend a lot of time dodging his stuff. And again, just activate here, Akarat's Champion. Give us that nice damage increase. Let's jump behind him, and he's almost dead. Of course, he does spawn a million of his dudes, and we are actually in a tight corridor, which is probably not exactly where we want to be. But the good part is that the spawn ones just fire in a straight line, so it makes it not too bad. Alright, we're down to just a few billion health now. We'll be going down any second. So yeah, that's more or less going to do it, assuming I don't die here. Just activate my Iron Skin, make sure that I don't. Go ahead and jump on him. If I need it, I had Akarat's Champion almost coming up, but there you go. I'm not going to pretend that, you know, I did that with a bunch of time left, but we did it. So again, this is a suboptimal gear build. Because I don't have the weapon that I need. If you do have Joanna's arguments, seriously play this build. It's a ton of fun. As I said, I love, you know, just jumping up into the sky and coming down in a, you know, blaze of thunder and hammering people to death. It's super, super fun. With the one-hander, you actually get almost 100% uptime on Akarat's Champion, which is really nice. If I do get it, I'll probably do a quick update video. I won't go through the full thing like I did today with the full build and, run through and all that, but I'll probably just do a quick, just few minute update if I do get that weapon. So, hope you guys enjoyed it. That's how the build plays. Again, this is suboptimal, so we are at, Rift 48. You can absolutely do 50 plus with the Johanna's argument. Again, you have the option of either using it or cubing it, depending on the playstyle you prefer. Just make sure you adjust your passives accordingly. But yeah, it's an absolute blast to play. It's 100% viable to push 50 plus. So again, hope you guys enjoyed. Any comments, any feedback, anything you'd like to see from future videos, please leave them in the comment section below. And hope to see you guys soon.